Good afternoon, folks, and shout out to our amazing panelists that we have here today. It's going to be an afternoon of talking about gaming on Solana with our amazing hosts, Jerry Lee from the Solana Foundation and Orangey. We'll also be joined by guests from Star Atlas, Michael Wagner himself, DGen Legends with Pangboy and Transy representing, the team from Low Light Forums, and myself, Ryan from BR1 Infinite. Jerry, why don't you introduce yourself, and then Orangey, why don't you hop in and we'll get into the nitty-gritty of it.
Let's do it. Great to see everyone here. My name is Jerry Lee. I'm on the games team here at Solana Foundation, and it's as exciting as you might imagine, basically helping attract new games and existing games building on Solana and making sure everyone is successful here.
And what's up? I'm Orangey. I'm a Web3 gaming content creator and ex-professional Fortnite player. And now I'm exploring the ecosystem. And this is actually my first time ever speaking with any Solana game, so let's do it.
Well, I know we have a long list of topics today, but let's give all of our panelists an opportunity to introduce themselves as well. Mike, why don't you hop in and tell us about yourself and one of the biggest projects, if not the biggest project, in Solana Gaming.
Hey, thanks, Ben. Thanks for hosting. Good to be here. Awesome just to be up here with the panel of builders here in Solana. I think Solana was really pioneering gaming. I know we came on the scene in early 2021, really with the debut of a white paper and a dream of what we could accomplish. But I'm Michael. I'm CEO, co-founder of Star Atlas, and what we're building is a pretty comprehensive ecosystem of what I'll call gaming environments. We're building across multiple front ends, and that includes our flagship product, a AAA space exploration, massively multiplayer online game. We're building that in Unreal Engine 5. We also have a browser-based environment. We call that Sage, Star Atlas Golden Era. This is really more of a real RTS, top-down style strategy game. And then we also have a mobile application that's in development right now as well. The mobile application is a fitness app. It's a bit of a spin on the move to earn segment of the industry. In this case, you'll be taking a Star Atlas crew member, you'll loading that into the mobile app, going on a walk, run, bicycle ride, and you level that character up as you complete those physical activities. Now, one thing I always do point out is that a big part of what we're doing at Star Atlas is not developing out individual or siloed product verticals. I mention all of these environments, but a deep part of our philosophy is deep integration of blockchain into virtually every aspect of the game. So, so-called fully on-chain gaming. An example of that right now is Sage, where a lot of our on-chain mechanics live. We have a number of different programs deployed that manage things like fleet management, inventory management, coordinate systems, movement, mining and extraction systems, crafting, combat systems. These are all living live on Solana. We're doing a couple million transactions per day, something like 6 or 7 million instructions per day. I think it's probably upwards of 15% of the total network transaction volume of Solana just through our Sage product alone. But I mentioned that because this base layer, this back end of Solana allows us to create an interwoven and composable ecosystem of game front ends. So players that are engaged in extracting resources, crafting items, crafting consumables like food or fuel in Sage, those are the exact same SFTs and commodities that are consumed for people that are engaged in, say, competitive combat racing in our Unreal Engine client right now. And likewise, the crew members that you're leveling up through the crew mobile app, those can be slotted into your ships as part of ship configuration in both Sage and in Unreal Engine. So we're building this really massive and immersive gaming ecosystem. We're building largely on chain, and the way I think about this longer term is that we're not just building a gaming product, we're building a gaming platform. We already have a number of different external teams that are building their own dApps, their own DeFi services, their own game functionality services that integrate seamlessly into the world of Star Atlas. And we see huge upside potential in enabling this type of creativity and innovation, because we can collectively attract a world of developers to build alongside us, to create features, to monetize those features, and all of our users directly benefit from all of this innovation that goes on. So I like to think of Star Atlas as kind of, you know, a layer 1.1, very similar to the way that any layer 1 protocol like Solana operates, with composability and extensibility. We're just doing that with a core attraction of some really cool gaming products at the center of all of it.
Next up, I think we'll have our guest from Low Life Forms introduce himself.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm John. I'm the marketing and community lead on the Right Trigger team for Low Life Forms, and what we're building is kind of a IP and game combo. The Low Lifes are set in a world of science fiction and fantasy combined. So there's tech, there's magic, there's shamans, there's all kinds of the sci-fi tropes that you're used to, and then we've combined that with a gritty criminal underworld. Kind of like gangsters, mobsters, crime families. So sort of the seedy underbelly of sci-fi universes that you don't see as much of. So heists and smuggling and illicit trading, and we are building our first chapter on Solana with. Our first chapter is basically a combat arena, mostly team deathmatch, and that should be available for some of our playtesters within the next couple of months. And our universe will unfold in future chapters, so if people get a character now or get other gaming pieces as we release new mints, they will all be, incorporated in this and future chapters of the game as we open up new ways to play and, give people more opportunities to level up and get more loot and experience this rich game verse we're creating. So thanks for having me, and looking forward to hearing everybody else.
Right Trigger Studios is actually also based in New York, so I've been actually down to the studio to playtest the games a couple of times. Highly recommend. It's one of the most well-made, polished games I've seen on here. Much love for Low Life Forms.
Thanks, John.
Wanted to get DJ Legends up here for a chance to introduce themselves. I know Pennyboy, I see Trancy on here. How are you guys?
Yo, what is up, guys? I'm Pennyboy. Good to see everyone out here. I do Web3 gaming content, founded a Web3 gaming community on Solana that is building a platform to onboard gamers to Web3. So, doing a little bit of everything out here, but, shout out to everyone out here. We got Jerry from Solana. We got Orangey. I always see Orangey around. Welcome to Solana, Orangey. And we have some good games being built out, so, definitely take a look at BR1, Low Life Forms, Star Atlas, Photo Finish. There's a lot of good ones I could keep going, but there's a lot of games nowadays. So, welcome over here, Orangey. And just here to chill, here to vibe. We're working with Solana, hopefully to do something really big for Solana Gaming. So you guys will be hearing a lot more about Solana Gaming soon. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all I got for now. Good to be here for everyone.
Awesome. Good to see you as always, Fanboy. Last but certainly not least, we have BR1.
What's up, guys? And Jer, I appreciate you being a host today with Orangey. My name is Ryan Ever on social media, but in real life, I'm Evan Ryer, the CEO and co-founder of Bravo Ready, the parent company behind BR1 Infinite. For those of you that are unfamiliar with our game, we're the world's first risk-based shooter. This is a shooting game for money. There's different servers, a free mode, 10-cent game mode, 25-cent, $1. Using the $1 game mode as the example, you pay $1 USD to spawn into a map, and for every player that you eliminate, you earn $1 USD. And we take a service fee. It goes without saying, you can increase your earnings potential by owning different characters and weapon skins. But we'll dive into the nitty gritty of it as we answer some of the questions that I know we have prepared today. Excited to be here, excited to be among some incredible OGs in the Solana space. Mike, you know I've been following Star Atlas since almost day one. My COO has been a huge supporter of Star Atlas since, I think, prior to launch. Pangboy and DGen Legends were some of our first supporters, and Pangboy even wrote us an angel check when we launched in 2022. And Low Lifeforms, well, boys, you guys have made some huge waves in the Solana gaming space. It was a pleasure meeting you at Solana Games Day all that time ago. And last but not least, Orangey, a new friend, a very strong gamer, somebody that I really see as an organic KOL, a guy with an opinion that I truly do respect. He's not a paid shill. He's not somebody out here trying to make money. On the contrary, he's a very successful gamer. I'm eager to get your feedback on everything that we've been building. Let's get into it. Back to you, Jerry.
Absolutely. Great to always see your energy here, Ryan, ever. Let's start with something more general because we have a lot of really great teams here, and we can definitely get into the nitty gritty of what makes a good Web3 game. But Orangey, I'd love to start with you. As an early content creator in Web3, what are some pretty noticeable changes you've seen throughout the years? And to be honest, are you excited with where the industry is heading? Do you have reservations? What's the vibes?
Jerry, I've only been here for a year. I got onboarded through Doogie Dash when it comes to Web3 gaming, and I guess throughout the last year I've gone from not playing any game to playing a few games. I play a few games here and there, so we've had more titles. But I'm still new, bro. I need you to introduce me.
I will still call you early. We're all early content creators in Web3 gaming. That's the asterisk.
We are still early. But Jerry, actually, real quick, if you want to answer me a question, since you threw me a wild one, let me throw you one. Listen, I very rarely hear about Solana in gaming. I think it's been BR1 on list that I've really heard of compared to any other chain. Why do you think that is, and what's going to change?
That's a great question, and we actually get that from a couple of teams, both inside the ecosystem and outside. I think historically, so I'm speaking on behalf of Solana Foundation, we tend to let the ecosystem take a very active approach in shaping, how their community looks like, what are the, right action strategies for them to acquire new users. When you work with Solana Foundation, we're very much a secondary player. The spotlight should all be on you. The games, the actions you take, and then the effects, right? All the credit goes to you. What's going to change in 2024? Hopefully, we're leaning in a bit more on being more active for marketing. So, still soon to be announced or launched, but we're working on an ambassador program to help highlight some of the cool games building here. We've had some partnerships with G2 Esports to dedicate professional esports players streaming Solana games in general. We've been taking a backseat, and that's the truth. But now we are leaning in more, and hopefully, these efforts 2, 3, 4, 5 months down the road from now will play out.
That's what I like to hear. Yeah, you guys have some really incredible games, and I think you guys can easily be up there with when people think about gaming, blockchains. They think about Avalanche and Ronin, and you guys can easily get there.
Appreciate that.
That's a really great point, Orangey, that you know how to say. I do think that at the current point, people, when they think about gaming, they're like, oh yeah, Ronin Chain, oh Avalanche, or maybe big time open loot. But no one ever thinks Solana, and we're going to be making a change here in 2024. So you guys, keep an eye out. Me and Jerry are trying to cook something nice out for the entire Solana ecosystem. But yeah, shout out to Orangey coming over here from Doogie Dash. Probably one of the first Web2 pro players that really you might be the first that really actually got into the Web3 gaming community or the Web3 community itself actively, as a creator. So, shout out to you, Orangey. Seeing really, I think that's just really cool to see. And, Orangey, I did have a question for you. Whenever you talk to maybe some of your other Web2 gaming buddies, you talk to them about Web3 or any of that sort. What is their opinion on it?
Yeah, man, I think we're at such an early stage with some of these games that more recently maybe they've been like, when I try to put them onto games, they've been like, oh yeah, like it was actually pretty fun. But like I'll be honest here, it's always been like, I mean, I hang out with like esport pros, right? It's always about like tournaments and potential winnings and like how much money can somebody make off a tournament or like a game. But more recently, we've actually been playing games just for fun. So I think that's like been a big change. And to them, it's just been like, okay, like how can I also capitalize on these opportunities in Web3 gaming? And I mean, last year we were at like 18K Bitcoin. Today we're like at 60. So over time, just the whole ecosystem's going up. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely are early.
I think we
Orange is
should.
an early Web3.
I think we should spend this whole space as just harassing Jerry to get more coverage of Solana gaming out there in the world.
This was a trap, and I fell for it. I'm sure,
Yeah,
guys.
Jerry, what we want to know is when the next all-paid-for Solana Hacker House with gaming section.
Still unannounced, but I have a strong suspicion that the Dubai and London hacker houses will have a games and media leading focus. So if you guys are in the area, I definitely suggest making a trip down there. I hopefully will be there too as well.
Sponsored booths on Solana. You heard it here first.
Next, you should get it from me in writing.
Jerry, this isn't a gaming session. This is actually an intervention. We'd like to sit you all down here and run through some of the complaints that we have. No, I think I do think, in fairness, Solana Gaming is underrepresented. The narrative is underrepresented right now. You're seeing a lot of other chains. I mean, Polygon was doing this pretty early on. I think AVAX right now is doing a pretty good job with marketing spend and sponsorship and recruiting content creators to promote the projects that are being developed on those chains. Now, I think from a technological perspective, I still believe that Solana is superior. One of the things that is really compelling to me, and one of the reasons why we decided to build on Solana originally, is this idea of a shared single global state machine, as opposed to having sharding or fragmenting of sidechains or L2s or project specific blockchains, where you really lose all of the benefits of that composability. And if I go back to what I was originally saying about, hey, we have this interoperable, interwoven game ecosystem within Star Atlas, and we have this big initiative of building fully on-chain game logic, or a lot of game logic directly on Solana. The benefit is that we can then tap into all of the innovative developers that are building on Solana. And I think that's also one of the strongest arguments in favor of Solana. There is a flourishing developer ecosystem.
Real exciting.
Solana's also done a phenomenal job with global hacker houses and with events like Breakpoint, with the Play GG event, focusing specifically on games. But it's one of the most rapidly developer ecosystems, and if you're a project like Star Atlas, and we want to recruit developers to build features that can integrate seamlessly into Star Atlas and all live in the same state machine. Composability. Well, Solana is
appreciate it. Beautiful day as always, like you said.
We're not trying to isolate ourselves from everyone else. We're trying to build ourselves as part of something much bigger, which is the full Solana ecosystem. So I think it has
come in recently and built something cool.
Yeah, but
and
the
last thing I'll leave you off with is,
Jerry, and
it's been a great 2 months so far.
About
March
what are the initiatives that can put a little more focus and a little more attention on gaming on Solana, because there's so many great projects that are building here.
Amazing day, amazing week.
These are all fair points, and thank you, Michael, for coming.
We'll see you all in a month.
Being in my corner.
In the lab.
I always had a question for you.
Gaming and art.
You mentioned a lot about composability and being a single shared state. So how does that play into your strategy when you think about building out Star Atlas? What you can do in Web 2 versus all that you can now do in Web 3? What are some of the main things some North Stars that when you're building out the team, building out the game, working with your team, what are some of the things that you gravitate towards?
Well, I'll reference here our build program, I guess, first of all. Now, our build program consists of really 2 elements. The first of those is an open IP policy, wherein we have branding and media kit and assets that anybody publicly can access via build.staratlas.com. They can leverage that and start to build a commercialized business. They can generate up to $1 million in revenue, for example, with 0 revenue sharing into us. The idea is that we can support and bootstrap small teams and entrepreneurs to start to create a company, and we only start to share in the revenue to the extent that it is successful, because we have firsthand experience of just how difficult it is to start a company, and especially to start a successful company. The result of that is that we've seen 65 companies apply, get approved, and start building products and services around Star Atlas. Companies like Gallia Merchants that produces Star Atlas apparel, merchandise, computer peripherals. Dark Core Roasters is a company that is using the Star Atlas brand to produce coffee. It's a coffee brand. Gallia Art Station produces 3D printed models of our ships, physical models. All of these companies are selling these items right now. And again, they're not on the hook for any revenue share to us for that first $1 million in gross revenue. So that's one side on how we start to expand more broadly, get greater visibility for Star Atlas itself. And long term, we think about the passive revenue streams that can flow into us. A big part of that relies on how successful are we as a brand in the first place. But we have already seen deep attraction to building alongside Star Atlas from the physical merchandise and product standpoint. And I'll also mention something like tabletop game. The people that play Warhammer 40K tabletop, there's a team in the community that wants to build that. Now, these are all things that, sure, we would love to do as a company, but we are focused on building this highly ambitious gaming product and really refining the ecosystem. So I am more than happy to share in the upside and the value creation with people and provide these opportunities to people, because ultimately everyone wins. It's us as a company, it's the entrepreneur, and it's the other stakeholders and players that are within our ecosystem that all benefit from that. Now, more specifically on the development side and why composability is important is we also have some 13 repositories that are available on that build program right now. That list continues to grow. Where we have program IDs, IDLs, TypeScript bindings, Rust bindings where applicable, documentation, and we've already seen a number of different teams that are building out their own dApps. Now, this could be DeFi or game functionality or other forms of gaming services where they essentially optimize the experience for the user. We have the Sage product out, Star Atlas Golden Era. That's the browser game. There's a certain level of automation that we are perfectly comfortable with, but we haven't necessarily built the logic into our programs. And one example is that there's multiple star bases and multiple areas where you can mine resources across this map of Gallia, but there is no automation. So if you want to have a fleet that is mining something, and then once its inventory fills up, deposit to a starbase, and then start mining again. Well, we don't provide that right now. I think it's a necessary function, but this one of the guilds in the ecosystem, SLY, has built a tool set that they call Labs Assistant alongside this kind of profile management system alongside it. And we built the profile management program that allows you to give permissions to various wallets to engage in various game functions. And so they've essentially built this entire suite of technology that allows for automation within the game. And I will footnote this and say that there's criticism and skepticism around automation in games. Automation is not a bad thing. If you were playing StarCraft and you set your SCVs to go mine crystals, you don't have to go direct those units every time you want to restock, right? They're just going out, mining, and coming back to base and depositing them. That is perfectly okay. And so we're kind of monitoring how automation tools are being used, and we're supportive to the extent that they're broadly accessible and available to everybody in our community. Now, these guys have open sourced their technology. They make it available to everyone. There's no asymmetric advantage to anyone. Anybody can use this tool and utilize the same automation. That's only possible because we have all of these programs on Solana, and they're building directly into our bindings and making these functions possible. There's a number of other examples I could give, but that's kind of the core tenet. If you want to build a lending protocol, a fleet rental protocol, a scholarship system, all of those things are possible permissionlessly and immediately because of how we've developed our logic.
That's awesome. And Mike, I don't think I've ever told you this, but we do this here at Solana Foundation. We do reporting, so we have the on-chain transactions for Star Atlas, Sage Labs, and it is always a pain because you guys have 60 million transactions monthly that I'm trying to put in the graph and into a report. So But keep up the good work, because this is definitely pain that I'm willing to go through, since you guys are so killing it out there.
Anything I can do to make your life harder, Jerry, I'm all for, man. It's like one of the core things that brings me joy.
That's the other North Star you have, for sure.
So, guys, I would like to highlight, we have heard, the qualms, I guess, of everyone on Solana. Like, hey, guys, Solana Gaming, we haven't really been too active out here, spreading the good word of Solana Gaming. And, I noticed this maybe like 2 months ago. We've been talking to the Solana Foundation. Shout out to Jerry for helping, essentially start this entire process of bringing Solana Gaming on the map. So, all I'm going to say, guys, we have something cooking up for you guys, and we're going to put Solana Gaming on the map 2024. And I got a lot more exciting things upcoming, so you guys stay tuned.
Fanboy's teasing a lot about what we're working on. But, speaking of building community and putting games on the map, John, Low Life Forums has been doing a great job. Like, you guys put out some really cool trailers highlighting the game, the community. We'd love to hear a little bit more about your social media strategy. How do you build a community? Because game dev is definitely an important part of building a game, but obviously in Web3, community building especially is also super important. So we'd love to hear a little bit more.
Yeah, of course. And it comes down to one of the reasons we picked Solana in the first place is that, what we found looking at other projects and other, both gaming and NFT and other app projects is that there was kind of a great community around a lot of these projects. And, compared to other chains, which are, perfectly serviceable on the tech side, we didn't see the same sort of enthusiasm around, what they were building, or at least it wasn't quite as visible. So I think, what in general, and I think, the challenge for marketing any game is what we do with the community when nothing's happening. So, and we've been trying to do basically within our Discord server and pieces of our Twitter world. There's a little bit of role play in a way. We treat all of our community like prisoners that are waiting for their turn to play in our arena combat game, which they literally are. And then sort of in the meantime, we've been doing all sorts of stuff for giveaways and games and game nights and. But I think the thing too is that we like to rely on them to help us point our ship a little bit. Like in the past, a lot of gaming projects, the community wouldn't see one until the game was probably 95% in the can, right? So they're probably just doing final bug testing by the time something reaches a convention or a trailer that you would recognize. But you see a lot of games now with ourselves, and it's like you're building alongside the community, and they can help prioritize things they want to see instead of having to preload all this content where you could build all kinds of things, and turns out you were wrong, and what people really want to play is a very small portion of your game. And so. And I think a lot of times too, we've also started to use the community and work with them on, fleshing our universe, right? So we've started to, we're building up a huge library of customizations and tattoos and pieces of, that you can add to your characters that are based on our community, that are based on some of the guilds that have, we've been collaborating with. So I think, in a way, we don't know how to do all of it yet, but we're kind of, picking and choosing, and we're trying to use the highlights within the Web3 paradigm to help us build the universe, point the company in the right direction, and, get that kind of live feedback as we go. So, and lately we've been releasing some new videos that showcase a little of that. We're showing off, some of the markings and the tattoos that, have, little in jokes and shout outs to community memes and community names, and we're going to be doing a lot more of that pretty soon. And we've been using our holders characters in a lot of the footage just to give them a preview of what they'll look like later. So, I mean, I guess really, sky's the limit, but we're having a good time.
It's funny you bring up your community because every time I've play tested the live forms at your studio, it's always with your community members, and some of them, they do not go easy on me. So I'm probably rocking a 0.5 KDR when I'm playing the live forms, but hopefully with practice, I get better. So, going to market with your community, it sounds like that's a super unique part of Web3. RNG, I want to tee you up for this next one. Coming from other ecosystems, what are some of the really cool ways that you've seen games go to market? Maybe leveraging the community or leveraging social media. Anything that really stood out to you? RNG, if you're speaking, I think you're on mute.
He may be rugging if we're unlucky.
No worries. Let me pivot to you then, Ryan or Evan. What are some of the ways that you really want to tap into your community when you go to market, or things that you felt you can leverage your community with, how to reward them? How do you keep the back and forth between you and your community a two-way avenue?
So it's a multi-tiered approach. Targeting traditional Web 2 gamers and Web 3 gamers is drastically different, and their incentives and how to align them, different strokes for different folks. Initially, we started with a safe launch in South America so that we can get a taste for the feedback around our game from a traditional gaming audience. And in a similar capacity, in parallel, we did a go-to-market for our Web3 audience. And what we learned is that the functionality and the aligned incentives have to be ones that align with those core expectations. For the gamers, we have to make sure that we removed all the Web3 verbiage, that when you register, there's email, password, download, play, no mention of crypto, no mention of NFTs. And as a result, we saw by removing that friction, traditional gamers showed up and they played because they didn't develop a concern or an anxiety around interacting with functions they weren't familiar with. For those Web3 guys, it was really important to understand that not everybody has the ability to play our game, and that we have to design functionality that would appeal to really the people in this audience that want to support us but can't necessarily download a game on PC. That's things like rental functions, team-based functions, where you could interact with the athletes, you could onboard them to your teams based on their career stats, and you could lend out your NFTs to them in such a capacity that they could leverage the earnings bonus, but at the same time make a passive revenue. Really designing for the athletes, the audience members, the content creators, and the game investors. The four profiles we really find in gaming today was our secret sauce. And I'm proud to say we have just over 120,000 users right now, and we plan to push that to double, hopefully, in the next quarter.
Oh, that's crazy to hear. Congrats on the growth. I think we're seeing a ton of games. The first wave you had the play to earn model, and now we're seeing a lot of games level that up, right? Experimenting with different models. Some are play to earn, some are kill to earn. Ryan, can you talk a little bit more about what inspired kill to earn, and does that translate to maybe a more competitive player base, more hardcore? How does that play out with your users?
We were in the pursuit of building a true esport. My background comes from the esports gambling space, where previously I built and sold the platform Compete.gg, where you would bet on your performance in games versus others. We wanted to take that real money element and integrate it into the game itself. And that's what BR1 was inspired. It was the vertical evolution of Compete.gg. In building out this product, it's important to realize that there's users, there's gamers that are much more competitive and those that are much more casual. And we wanted to really provide an additional level of thrill for your everyday gameplay, but also a tangible reward for the time you spend playing games. P to E is dead. Play to earn is not a scalable model, right? That earn element has to come from somewhere, and if it's not from people, it's from your marketing budget. We wanted to build out a model that, again, it was tangible to the user, it made sense and could scale appropriately. Pay to spawn, kill to earn. You put up a bit of money to play, you earn that money from every kill you get. That earn element comes as a product of what your opponent brings to the table. Jerry, if you spawn and you pay $1 and I eliminate you, I am taking that dollar from you. And you can see immediately where the funds come from. And really, to the user, if you maintain a positive KD, it's very clear. You'll make a lot more than minimum wage. And that's easy to understand, it's easy to grasp, and it's exciting.
I disagree that play to earn is dead.
Hop in, brother.
Hop in, please.
No, I mean, I've talked about this extensively. So we've put significant effort into our economic modeling and economic architecture. We have a full econ team. It's led up by Chris Smith. He's a PhD in economics out of Purdue, emphasis on labor markets. One of the things that we've established in terms of creating sustainability in economic systems and MMOs in the long term is where are those earnings derived from? So, Evan, and dude, I gotta say, I've known you for a year and a half, and I still call you Brian. I hate what you've done with your name, but Evan. I love what you guys have done with essentially the directly correlating your the injected capital as the risk vector for what you're capable of earning. I think that is quite simply very balanced. Like that, I don't want to say it's simple, but that mechanism is definitely a balanced mechanism. It's more difficult when you're talking about either inflation of a currency into a game, as is the case with Star Atlas. We do have an emission curve. It distributes over 8 years. However, it is not hyperinflationary, and that's where we've seen collapses in the past and unsustainability in the past is when teams are using their emission curve as a user acquisition strategy and doing so through an unsustainable yield, right? If I'm telling players, hey, you buy this asset, you get 1,000% APY on this thing. Well, that of course is never going to work, especially to the extent that you don't have the sinks on the back end of how to utilize that currency in game. But in any case, at 1,000% or these ridiculously high yields, you're never going to have sufficient demand for utilization of the capital that's being emitted as a result of that. So all of that is to say our core model of our economy is really based on deep levels of specialization, niche specialization, complexity of the game, and then matching together producers and consumers. Right, and I've kind of used the example of the extraction and crafting in Sage. This gets extremely elaborate as we get more into the Unreal Engine client and future versions of the game. But as one very simple example, our competitive combat racing loop that's coming out with 2.2, which by the way will actually follow that skill-based betting model that you guys are using in BR1. So you can engage in races, you can put up, you can put up your deposit, and then depending on the outcome of that race is where you earn your Atlas. That's not emission based whatsoever. However, those players do have consumable resource consumption requirements. You need to buy fuel, you need to buy food, you need to repair your ship occasionally. We as a studio do not sell those services. We don't sell fuel to people. Fuel needs to be extracted via hydrogen and then crafted into fuel from other players. And in the current environment, players that are in Sage are crafting that fuel. They are selling that to other players. We're seeing about $2.5 million per month change hands on a peer-to-peer basis. That's non-inflationary peer-to-peer opportunity for players to earn. Now, some players are spending, other players are producing and selling. And to the extent that we can establish a balance between that dynamic, and that is through a number of different levers within our economy, controlling things like production rates and emission rates of these commodities into the ecosystem, then we can actually find an equilibrium where everybody actually feels rewarded. And it might just be that the player that is engaged in racing, they're more than happy to spend money to purchase fuel from someone, so they can just spend all of their time engaged in racing and competing in racing. And maybe they're winning or maybe they're losing, but they're spending their money for a service with another player. Now the play to earn mechanic for the producer is to sell to other players, not to dump onto the markets, and not because of a hyperinflationary emission curve. So it can be done. It hasn't really successfully been done up to now, but I think we will define what play to earn in the future actually looks like.
Yeah, I agree 100% with Michael here. I think like the original play to earns really didn't make sense for more of a sustainable economy. I really liked what they're doing at Star Atlas. And when you really think about it, like RuneScape, World of Warcraft, those are basically play to earn games if you wanted to make it a play to earn game, right? And Yeah, essentially, it really just goes back to, if the people earning, if it takes a lot of effort to earn, I think that's really good for a play to earn game. If you just started out the game, it doesn't really make sense that you're making the same amount as people who are no lifing, putting in 8 hours a day, and having that proper progression, as Mike was talking about, where it's like essentially you want to have the people who are, being really sweaty in the game, fucking putting in, 40 hours a week, specializing in their part of the game to be really making the real money, and everyone else is just part of the ecosystem along the way. I think that's how we're going to really see play to earn evolve in the long run. And I know, BR1 is essentially almost a play to earn game too itself. And I know you guys are adding some interesting mechanics as well. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, that's something I'm seeing a lot of these newer Web3 games like or not even newer, just like the old ones evolve to a good model. I know Star Atlas has been on that model for a while. There you have a lot of play to earning going on. I have a bunch of ships over in Star Atlas making some money as we speak. So, yeah, I mean, it really just depends on how much of your community is actually going to be diamond handing and playing the game versus like immediately just trying to cheat out of there.
I want to take the opportunity to reset the room. For those of us that are just joining, there's about 150 people here today. This is Gaming on Solana. We're joined by some of the best panelists that you can have in Solana Gaming. I'm going to kick it off from the top. We have Low Life Forms making a huge move in Solana. Never forget, maybe, I think you guys are less than 2 years old, but you have the OG status of somebody that's been here since the start. We have the Degen Legends team, which, when it comes to gamer guilds and tokenomics, there are no brighter minds. Requires no introduction. We have the one and only Michael Wagner, CEO from Star Atlas, myself, co-founder from BR1 Infinite, the world's first risk-based shooter, and our co-host, Jerry Lee from the Solana Foundation. Jerry, I want to hand it back to you. What is our next topic?
Thanks for resetting the room. We have some newcomers. I think Solana main account hopped in here for a little bit, so definitely some new profile pictures at least in the space. Next topic, would love to go to you, Pangboy. I think you've been a pretty prominent voice in the space. We've worked together. What do you think makes a successful Web3 game here? Like, you've seen many games come and you've actually covered many games and created content for them, but what makes a successful game here, and how does it differ from Web2 games? What is kind of the killer thing that Web3 games have to remember?
Yeah. So, okay, let's just give it from the go. So for a successful Web3 game, guys, what I really think makes it successful is first, you want to make sure that you have your 1,000 diehard fans. Every single Web3 game that I've invested in personally that's done extremely well, you could always go into a community. You can find these hardcore members who are basically, messiahs of the game, and basically tell everyone. You won't stop talking about the game. Star Atlas has them, BR1 has them, Low Life Forms. Actually, I haven't met that many of the community, but I know they have them just looking at the floor price. You have to find these 1,000 people, and these people really help bring your game to everywhere from socially to recruiting more players, so on and so forth. That's the first thing I look for in a successful Web3 game. And then after that, I actually dive into the game and check out, see how the game operates. Again, I think a high progression based system where the experts in the game, allowing the experts to essentially be the highest, earners of assets, so on and so forth, is really good for a game economy, right? Because first of all, these experts, they're not going to be dumping as fast just because they're really invested into the game. They just like the game. They're spending all their time in the game, and they really just help fuel the entire rest of the economy from the top down. So I think those type of progression systems, like every single great game I've seen currently in Web3 has these progression systems. From my own experience selling gold in RuneScape and World of Warcraft back in the day,
it's the exact same progression system. You know, like for me selling gold in World of Warcraft, I was selling raids to people and making a ton of gold from there. And essentially, you know, in order to be able to sell raids, you had to have, you know, you had to be really sweaty in the game, putting in the most time, organizing the biggest community. So I think Web3 is going to go super, you know, towards this type of like progression system. We're already seeing Star Alice, you know, big time is getting there. You know, and you know, for other, those are just more the MMO side. You know, for FPS side, now I don't have as much of a comment there.
Well, let's tee it up. I think those are really good points. I want to tee up John from the Life Farms, specifically on the FPS side. You know, your team comprises some Web2 games, vets from Quake, etc. Like, compare your experience building in Web2 and Web3, specifically for FPS. What are some of the things that you always keep top of mind when you know, building out your game, but also building out the community? What can holders expect with Build Life NFTs? How do you think about the differences?
That's a lot of questions in one question, I think. But the, I mean, I think there's a bit of a mix, right? So, you know, about a year ago we did a drop of our first playable characters, the Low Life OG collection. You know, we're planning a lot of things that are sort of smaller in scale in a game sense. Our next mint will be basically trading cards that will help you mod the game experience. You know, both in a sense where people can, you know, go out and create their own modes and playlists, but also we have some, you know, modes where people can, you know, it's sort of like a party mode where between rounds, different, you know, gameplay modifiers come into play and change the rules in some, you know, big or small manner. You know, so I think, you know, so part of that is just having a little bit of a, you know, fun with it and doing things with the NFTs that, you know, potentially weren't possible before because, you know, based on various, you know, rarities and uses and stuff, there's, you know, we're hoping to capture people's, you know, attention and imagination with, you know, wanting to try out different combos and trying to, you know, basically put their own sort of perfect game together using, you know, these pieces. And we, you know, in the future, we think there's a pretty big opportunity around, you know, people who just want to exist in this world. I mean, you know, one of the bigger problems with the, you know, sort of metaverse idea is that, you know, people kind of build a thing and there's nothing to do in the thing right away. So it's just, you know, kind of a lot of sitting and staring and you know, chatting. But the you know, the whole thing is that we're hoping that people kind of, you know, go out and sort of create their own you know, destiny in our world, and some of that will include, like, you know, if you've you know, picked up some rare armor or rare weapon from a mission and you want to go and customize it and resell it and, you know, sort of make it your own, you know, we want to introduce, you know, tools to do that, where, you know, you know, a player can, you know, sort of create their own way in the ways that interest them. And I think, you know, I guess the differences between Web 2 and Web 3 are clear in certain ways, but, you know, something I think, you know, at least we believe remains the same is that, you know, a gamer is going to want to play, you know, a game that they're interested in, or, you know, so you have to sort of start with something that's at least a, you know, high level of quality. So, you know, if people ignore every element of the Web3, they can just, you know, download your installer, get a couple of quick games in, like it or not like it, and you know, go from there. And I think, you know, it's our job to, you know, slowly introduce those elements to the Web2 player as you know, benefits that they just, you know, uncover throughout their sort of existence in our world. But we also want to make it, you know, as easy as possible, because, you know, there's countless Web3 games. I'm like, hey, that looks cool, and then I have to do like some paperwork to figure out how to go play it. You know, there's a layering of discords and white papers and hidden codes and things in, you know, or an object that costs like $3,000. You know, so I think part of it has to be the game is accessible, the game is fun, the game is good, and that, you know, we use the best of both worlds to integrate one into the other. And I think, you know, we have to look at our game as successful in sort of both both realms, right? Like if we stripped away every Web3 element, would still someone want to, interact with our universe and be curious about what our characters do? And so I think, and then everything we layer back in from the crypto world has to enhance that. It's not, we don't want the game to be uninteresting at the expense of, some grueling task that you have to sit and manage for 8 hours to win 35 cents or something. That's kind of the opposite end of our spectrum, I think.
Totally, these are good points. Really, how do you make it a deep enough universe, deep enough game that people want to stay and continue building and generate their own characters, but at the same time keep it simple enough so that it's not too high a barrier when the new player comes in. Michael, I actually wanted to tease this from you. With Star Atlas, you've built quite an impressive universe of IP. This thing is so grand. If you rewind months and years back, was there a magic moment for you that's kind of completed your conviction and this is what I want to do, this is what I'm building out when you first started?
I mean, that point in time was the inception of Star Atlas, to be honest. I think, I won't go all the way back with my background and history, but Star Atlas, or Automata, the studio, is really the second company that I created in the Web3 space. The first one was a crypto cannabis company. We were working on payment tech that could resolve some of the inaccessibility to financial services that cannabis companies had. In any event, there were, some successes there. And really what it came down to was a big contract that we had secured that we were prepared to go live with kind of got shut down. This was a government contract. We had gone and worked with state legislators to help get a bill passed, educate them on the benefits of crypto, working with the Nevada State Treasurer's Office. We got selected to participate in this closed-loop tokenized financial ecosystem for the cannabis industry, and the pandemic hit. And this, 2020. And so this was kind of the company was running out of money. This was a huge opportunity that we were expecting big results from, and that door just closed on us, right? And so it was essentially Danny, Jacob, and myself. Those are three of the co-founders. Danny's our chief product officer, Jacob's our chief technology officer, and we've been working together now for going on 7 years through both startups. And I pitched to them that we should, build a game and we should integrate DeFi and, do the thing with NFTs. And this was, all of this was still relatively nascent. Like there were pretty rudimentary games that were being introduced at the time. Axie was obviously the biggest, but it was a lot of turn-based or card-based games. And there's certainly a market for all of that. But when I presented or pitched to my two co-founders that we should do something in gaming, a ton of credit to Danny. He came back with a full game design document within a week. It was a 30-page game design doc. We were very rapidly putting that into a white paper format, and when we all collectively reviewed this together, all being longtime gamers, we just knew. We were like, this is the thing that we want to do. And we knew that was incredibly ambitious from the start and massive scale from the start, and kind of ridiculous, kind of in hindsight, almost ignorant of us for us to even embark on this, because we never went out with the intention of raising capital for the studio either. To this day, we've never taken on venture capital for equity in the company. We've bootstrapped the whole thing. If there was a moment that really solidified it, it was in that first year. It was seeing the interest and attraction and passion behind the idea just from the white paper. And then by April of 2021, we had initiated our first digital asset sale. That was this rebirth campaign, and we structured that as a series of 13 different posters over 13 weeks. They were kind of immersive posters, audio soundscapes. We partnered with musicians, composers, performers, and we had an AR overlay on this, but we never really expected that to be anywhere near as successful as it was, and it ended up being a $6.5 million revenue event for us over those 13 weeks. So we were able to leverage that to really start scaling the company. And by the end of the year, it was $145 million a year. So that certainly encouraged us that we were on the right path with something, and that we could succeed with this. Now, through all of that, through 2022, 2023, FTX, there's a bunch of stuff I could get into that posed challenges for us financially, even in the face of that first year revenue. But I think for us, more importantly, and for me and for anyone out there that is looking at starting something, if you want to build a business, if you want to create something, you better be passionate about it, because it is a grind. Like no entrepreneur will ever tell you that it's easy. You're going to work harder and probably make less money than you will ever make working in a secure, salary-based job. But the upside is huge, and also you get to focus your time on that thing that you love doing. So that's again, just word to the wise for anyone out there that wants to start a company or do anything individually, entrepreneurially. I think it's important for you to make sure that you absolutely love doing it, because it will consume your entire life.
I think that's true for a lot of teams building, especially games in this space, in such a hit-driven industry. When you don't have the success metrics right up front, like no guarantees, how do you continue working on the dream if not being so inspired and passionate about it from the start? How about you, Evan? Any advice from new incoming Web3 founders, either building games or generally just curious about Solana? What are the advices that you would give them?
I'll start on the topic of new founders. Step one is don't pay attention to the echo chamber. It's very easy to get caught up in crypto Twitter, and you see the same voices and the same names, and they're saying the same things, and maybe you're not seeing enough of the hard work that you're putting on the timeline, and it tends to demotivate people in the early days. And it's important to recognize that even we have 120,000 plus users in BR1. That is nothing. If we communicated that we did a go-to-market and this, it's true, they should drop in the bucket. If you're trying to take a product to the place that I think many founders are aiming for, the stars, we're talking millions of users. It's just important to recognize at scale where your efforts are being committed and what the impact is, and not to just concentrate on what crypto Twitter says. Similarly, when it comes to influencers, take everything with a grain of salt. Influencers and a lot of these, a lot of people that may leave comments on your projects are not familiar with development, right? Development is very difficult. It requires a lot of QC. It requires millions of dollars. Trust in your heart. Stay within the canvas of what you're building. On the topic of Solana, some things are only possible on Solana, and it's important to recognize that. Microtransactions in video games are a fantastic way to record provably fair and scarce assets, to prove that the functionality that you're rolling out is actually being used in a fair way. An easy example of that is a rental system, right? We have a rental system in BR1 Infinite. How do we prove to the world that it's truly a FIFO system where, based on when you put your operatives in the rental system and they're relative to other people, that they're being distributed in a fair order, that devs and staff aren't prioritizing their own NFTs, that nobody is printing duplicates of these items and selling them. These are all things that we get to accomplish by building on Solana, and let your minds run. There's all kinds of opportunities you could explore, and don't discount the amazing builders that you have at your fingertips. My DMs are always open. I know Michael, his DMs are always open. I've been messaging him. Everybody is very eager to help, and this is an amazing ecosystem to build in.
I wish I could retweet the soundbite just now. You bring up an interesting point. Like, so much of what we talked about is listening to your community and being able to pivot based on what your community wants. But at the same time, as a game dev who has conviction in the initial vision of what he or she is building out, how do you balance the two between what you set out to build versus what you're hearing from your community? I'll go back to you, Evan, and then we could go with Michael and then John again.
I'd say, again, it's important to have high conviction in what you're building. You don't know how people are going to use your product. And certain things happen. In our game, we released these ape and droid operatives, and all of a sudden, people were teaming up in the game. They wouldn't kill the other ape players. This is something that happened organically, and you got to roll with what is happening and address it and make it an opportunity. Listen to feedback, make sure the voices are heard by your community and respond to them, but also stay true to your vision. Make sure everything you do is data-driven, not based on opinion of yourself or your other co-executives or investors, that they follow the dream that you had, that you plan to deliver.
Yeah, hey, Jerry, I kind of missed the question. Can you restate that for me, please?
Yeah, just to tee it up again. We talked a lot about listening to your community and being able to pivot based on what they want. But at the same time, as a game dev, you have your own convictions. How do you balance the two between what you're building out, what you set out to build, versus what you're hearing from your community?
Oh man, it's a great question, and this idea of community I've often spoken about is it is an evolution and so distinct from the business customer relationship that I think is very conventional in traditional business, where typically you're talking about, I'm producing a product, we're creating demand for the product, and somebody is spending money on that product. It's a unidirectional transfer of value between the customer to the corporation. I think what's so different about Web3 is we really think heavily about shared value exchange. I mean, I've kind of talked about this with our open IP program and the way that people can build out services and DeFi and applications that tie into our company, and ways that we can open up the value exchange bi-directionally, so that money can go back to the consumers who are actually and the community who's actually contributing to the evolution, the feedback, and the development of the product itself. I mean, ultimately, what we do need to recognize is that we have the subject matter expertise. I think Evan, made a great point. Like, you have to shut out the noise, because everyone out there is going to tell you how easy it is to do something and what you should be doing, but they're also not the ones that are going out and creating the business and trying to do it themselves, right? So it's easy to be kind of the keyboard cowboy, but we have a deep relationship with our community, and I'm in Discord every single day. In fact, even during this call, I'm answering questions from our community in Discord. So you need the open line of communication. You need to collaborate with them. I think one thing that we've been able to kind of slowly transition into, which I wish we would have done earlier, is really that idea of rapid iterative releases, getting something out. Like, whatever you think is an MVP, cut that in half, or cut that in a quarter, and just release a quarter of what you thought the MVP would be, because being able to get that rapid feedback from the community can influence how you continue building, and can be a key determining factor of whether or not you succeed or not. What you don't want to do in the startup phase is spend too much time building something that people don't actually want. And so being fast, iterative, getting product out, getting them to interact with it, giving you feedback, and continually developing around that is critical. I think of us as the studio behind this as having the big picture and call it the guardrails. But everything that happens in between is influenced based on those discussions with our community.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. I mean, I think the rapid feedback, the iteration, whatever you think is MVP, cut that in half. That's definitely advice that I would give to any startup, especially in Web3. I think last up we have John. How do you balance community and your own conviction?
Well, I mean, I guess a lot has just already been said on this, and I'd have to agree with pretty much all of it. It's important for the team to have kind of an overall arching plan of what the games and what the universe will provide for the players. And I think there's there's definitely going to be a creative head on that monster. And like Mike just said, you don't want to spend, if you have like an 800-page design doc and you're building all this stuff just to only find out that, people want to use 5% of it once you've, blown $100 million to create it, is less than ideal. And so, maybe even earlier than your MVP, you can bring, paper concepts to your community. So if we're in, if the studio's in love with 5 or 6 different new game modes or game types, and if you get that feedback even earlier than you've built anything, even your first MVP has a closer shot to the target. So I think there's a little bit there, and I think but there's also a little bit of a trap. There's a bit of a there's a danger here too. Is that the constituents of our audience are definitely more of a Web3 degen crypto mindset right now, and so I think we also have to be a little bit cognizant that if we spend 100% of our energy focused on the the blockchain and the NFT traders and the that element of the game, once we finally open the gates and let the marketing dogs out on the rest of the gamers, it's sort of you don't want it to be so alienating to not also make a place that's welcoming for them. So I think early on the community feedback is definitely crucial, and in this world I think we have to address it's sort of a tier order that we have to kind of go after the Web3 guys first, as people who are in this day to day and looking for opportunities, but at the same time, don't dig yourself so far down that hole that you can't offer someone else a hand into your product.
I love the idea of the tiered approach and starting with Web3 audiences. It goes back to build for your warm audiences, the people who are going to play your game multiple times every day, and then once you get them on board, start building for colder audiences and get them on board as well. We are
go ahead. I just had something. So yeah, guys, I think that what Low Life Forum says is actually pretty powerful. I think there's definitely a balance here where it's okay, you want the game to be good, you want to focus on the gameplay, and you just want to make sure the game itself is actually a game and ready to go. But on the flip side, the crypto side, teams that are locked into both, it's just super important to be locked into both, because literally what I've seen in the Web3 gaming space and how it works is pretty ridiculous, right? So you'll have a game, it's the exact same game with a token. That token maybe is 1 cent. No one's really playing the game. The second that token goes to 10 cents at 10x, next thing you know, everyone is playing the game. I've seen user bases of games grow 2-3x just because the token price went up, and it actually becomes a marketing tool, right? So that's being a little locked in on the crypto side. Definitely helps bring eyes to your game, regardless of if you like it or not. That's just something I've noticed within the space, and yeah, people just price go up at the end of the day, and you can convert them to a user from that.
Such a good point, Pine Boy. We are up on time, so I wanted to get some final remarks from all of these great speakers here. Pine Boy, I'll start with you. Any closing remarks for this audience right here?
All I'm gonna say is we're gonna make Solana Gaming great in 2024, guys. We have a lot of wonderful teams here. We have Michael from Star Atlas, we have Ryan from BR1, Low Life Forums. We even got Spike, another fellow Web3 gaming content creator out here. And then we got Jerry, of course, from Solana here for the Solana Gaming space. So, guys, now be sure to give all these guys a follow. If you guys are on Solana, into gaming, these guys are definitely the leaders in this space out here. And, yeah, that's pretty much it.
How about you, Evan? Closing remarks?
I want to hand it off to Mike or John from the Life Forms. Give me the last spot.
Got it. John, how about you?
Hey, sorry, I've had some mute button issues tonight, but hey, I just want to thank everybody for having me out here, and definitely give us a follow on Twitter. We also have our Arzak in the audience, who's our one of our mascot characters for the game, so give him a follow too, and he posts a little more in fiction type stuff. But yeah, and we're gonna release some new mint information very soon, so please stay tuned, and great to talk to you guys.
Yeah, hey. First of all, just Evan, really appreciate the invite to this. Thanks for setting it up. Jerry, thanks for hosting. Did we lose Orangey? I guess we did at some point, huh? I didn't even realize. But in any case, appreciate you guys hosting. It's been a great discussion here. I will say we have an incredible year lined up at Star Atlas. We actually just I hosted a town hall in our Discord yesterday. We had 650 people show up. It was a 2-hour session. I ran through everything that we're working on now, everything that's available now, and all of the releases that we have coming up this year. Some major product developments in our Sage line, that's the browser-based game, with a major release coming up in just a couple of weeks. We're actually in private beta testing with our community right now, and that's going live in a few weeks. We have a number of really big releases this year for our showroom client, all of those gameplay features, with the core loop being competitive combat racing, skill-based betting, character customization, ship configuration, ship mastery, character progression. Those last four are all on-chain mechanics. We're also going live this year with our full Metagravity implementation. This is super massive scale MMO. We've already tested out and demoed 30,000 concurrent players in a single lobby. We're looking at bringing that up to the millions of users in the future, but we do anticipate later this year going full open access on Epic Game Store. It's playable now in Epic Game Store with a game access key. Hop in our Discord if you don't have one. We're happy to get you access to the game so you can play now. Economy is live now. Our mobile app's coming out later this year. And maybe a last little point, a little bit of a shill. We do have our crew card packs mint coming up. We're anticipating sometime in April. Crew members for the mobile app, ship configuration, mining resources. They can also double as your Solana PFP. I'm super excited for that part of it alone. But yeah, that's coming up in April. So ton of things going on this year, and just could not be more excited.
Awesome. And one last plug from my end. I think yesterday we announced, Solana announced with Coliseum the Renaissance Hackathon. And so there's a gaming track as well. So for anyone thinking about venturing into Web3 games, have an idea and want to build something, please check it out. There are other founders, team members you can partner with. There might be people with ideas who could use your help as well. So the link is pinned on the space. Encourage you all to give it a look. And I'll let Evan close us out.
On behalf of BR1 Infinite, we're really excited for our upcoming March build. It will be the best one ever, with our playable weapons, playable characters, and so much more. Our upcoming mint is on March 7th for our BR1 loot boxes. These boxes contain our first edition weapon NFTs that do come with that earnings bonus, as well as some amazing aesthetics. Every box minted will open to reveal 3 weapons. Now, I want to take a moment here and shout out all of the amazing people who joined us on the panel today. If those of you who didn't hear it, it is Community Week at Star Atlas. Definitely, please do go join their Discord. The Low Life Forms team has an upcoming mint. I very much recommend you turn notifications on their Twitter. DGen Legends, some of the greatest community builders in gaming, truly on this stage. You have the best of the best. This has been a Gaming on Solana Spaces, hosted by our great friend Jerry Lee from the Solana Foundation. There's a hackathon coming up. Go check the pinned tweet and participate. There's some things that you can only do on Solana. Now, I like to say that I'm incredibly jealous of the younger generation of gamers that gets to age into the products that we're building for them. The future of gaming is truly now. Over and out.